8:31 this Thursday morning. Thanks so much for sticking with us here on ARC Rochester. We're now taking you behind this story this Thursday morning as we continue to follow the conviction of hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs.
Yesterday, a jury found him guilty of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution, and he faces up to 20 years in prison.
This morning, we're joined by Greg Rinckey, the founding partner of Tully Rinckey PLLC, for a legal perspective on this verdict. Greg, thank you so much for waking up and joining us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So I want to dive right in and begin with that verdict coming down late yesterday morning. What was your reaction to hearing that he's only found guilty on 2 of the 5 charges?
Truthfully, I was not very shocked. I thought that the government was going to have an uphill battle convicting him of sex trafficking or RICO. So really wasn't shocked.
So explain that a little further, if you don't mind, specifically that uphill battle part. What were they up against here?
Well, I think they were up against their own witnesses. The defense did a very good job in poking holes in the government's case by using text messages, emails, phone messages that showed that a lot of this and most of this was all consensual, freaky sex. Doesn't make it a crime, though. So I think the defense did an excellent job in poking holes in the government's case, and that's why I think you saw the defense not call any witnesses and not put Combs on the stand.
So is that it for the prosecution? There's no fighting back. Typically when if someone is found guilty of certain charges, there's an appeals process that can play out. But in this case, because it was coming from the prosecution, there's no more to their fight, correct?
There's no more to the government's fight on whether or not he's going to be convicted of any other crimes. However, now the government's fight turns to sentencing. And they're going to use all of this evidence that came in to try and show that the sentence should be enhanced over the sentencing guidelines because of all of this misconduct.
And those sentencing guidelines, sorry to cut you off, Abby, 20 years in total, 10 for each count, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct, but he's not going to get anywhere near that. I think he could end up with somewhere, the sentencing guidelines are going to show probably between 2.5 to 4 years. I think there could be an enhancement on that based on the misconduct in this case. But it's also, you have to remember, he's also served, I think, 9 months already in prison. So that's going to count towards sentence. And as we all know, the judge remanded him back to jail, awaiting the sentencing. So all that time that he's in jail does count towards the sentence.
Interesting. Okay. So I'm wondering, for those who are unfamiliar, can you break down a little bit more some of these, the counts that he was found guilty on? Transportation to engage in prostitution. Can you put that into layman's terms for somebody who's thinking to themselves, I have no clue what that means?
Basically, all it is he transported a prostitute over state lines. In the grand scheme of things that he was charged with, not very serious, although it is a felony. And he will serve some jail time on it. But all it really means is he transported prostitutes over state lines.
Talk to us about the 3 charges that he was found not guilty on, the racketeering, the sex trafficking by force, and 2 counts, rather, of sex trafficking by force.
Well, I think the defense did an excellent job in poking holes in those charges by showing it wasn't force. It was consensual. These are individuals that traveled consensually. RICO is usually used for a business enterprise used for a crime. Usually we see it in mob type of cases. I think it was a stretch from the beginning in this case. And the government didn't prove that he used his business enterprise to commit crimes. Most importantly, I think the evidence that came in showed that this was consensual. These were individuals that consented, and the text messages, emails, phone messages at the time showed that it was consensual. So the government just didn't prove its case.
When it comes to some of the jury deliberations, I know nobody was in the room, and we don't have a crystal ball here to see exactly what was said and what was discussed. In your mind, do you think that it was a pretty typical amount of time for them to deliberate to come up with this verdict?
Well, in my experience, quick jury verdicts are good for the defense. So the fact that this was a fairly quick verdict, did show that the defense prevailed. But, you never know what goes on in a jury room. It sounded like there may have been some infighting in the room based on some of the questions that were coming on, but that's fairly common. And that's the point of the American jury. You have, 12 different viewpoints, 12 different backgrounds. But you can never really tell what goes on in that jury room because it's secret.
We're running low on time, but before we let you go, I want to talk a little bit about how this will move forward. As you mentioned yesterday, he thought because he was not guilty on the three most serious charges in this case that he may be released until sentencing, but the judge did remand him back to prison. Why is that?
Well, the judge thought he may be a threat to others based on the misconduct and based on the testimony that came in. So the judge viewed him as a threat. So that also may forecast, what the sentence could be. And what that would tell me is that it may be on the higher end of the sentencing guideline. I think the government is going to try and prove, and I think it's a good chance that he will be sentenced with aggravating circumstances based on the evidence in this case.
We want to thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for the perspective on that as well. Definitely some interesting facts as this continues to play out, and we'll see his sentencing soon.
Yeah, we hope to speak with you again sometime in the future. Thank you again, Greg.
Absolutely.
Time right now.